All right, everybody. So just a relatively short video on lights and really camera within Twinmotion. So this is a scene that my students are currently working on at the moment. I just have this rendered with the path tracer on a custom medium setting. I just want to go over like how I would light a scene like this and then talk about some of the camera stuff. So I'm going to turn off the path tracer here. And the first thing I want to look at is the lights. So if we start with just the environment outside, what I have is just the Lenong environment. And I've just have this set to basically 1. It's just a grayscale or gray sky overcast. And I'm going to turn off my camera just while I work. And you can see I've added some buildings. These came from the Sketchfab library, and I just kind of duplicated them and put some ivy on them, just on the off chance that, you know, when we do our final render, if we see outside these windows, we'll kind of see something out there. In order to set up our lights for this, we need lights on the outside coming in first. And so in order to do this, we've added 2 area lights, one pointing down, one pointing upwards, and the attenuation is going a little bit kind of further than the building itself. You do want shadows on these, and these are going to basically mimic outside light coming into the building. One thing you might also want to be aware of is if you're working with models that came from the SketchUp warehouse, please make sure that the glass is only a single pane. You want to make sure that there's not a double pane of glass in there. We get a little balcony outside here as well. So those are going to provide our ambient light, which is that Lenong gray sky. And then we got our 2 area lights blasting light inwards. And those will just help add some really nice light into the scene. For the rest of the lights, one thing I really do want to emphasize is it's really nice to be able to come up here and rename your actual lights. So all you got to do is just right click and rename. And I strongly recommend that as you're working with interior scenes, just get in the habit of just renaming those lights, even if it's just a system that you understand, but it'll just help so you're not constantly clicking looking for the lights you want. After that, after we've got those area lights outside, we need to light this the way a room would actually be lit in real life. And so we're going to mimic that with a little bit of cheating. So in order to add lights into the scene, and in order to ensure we get some really nice kind of contact shadows, you can see these kind of shadows, kind of where the objects meet the ground. You can kind of see that on the rug as well over here. This is what will help ground your model in sort of reality, is these cast shadows. So to do this, what we have at the top is 3 spotlights. I've placed them sort of lining up with what would actually be the lights in the actual room, the main light within the room. So we've got these sort of pendant ceiling lights. These spotlights have shadows on. That's absolutely super important. Their set's about 6,400, 6,500 Kelvin. They're a very neutral color. Now, more realistically, they'd probably be a little bit warmer, but for our purposes, this looks good. The intensity is pretty low, and the attenuation is basically just, I want them going as far as possible, and I've left the cone angle. These are just literally the default library lights and spotlights. I'm not using IAS light profiles for these. So those are going to provide a lot of the light just kind of pointing downwards. In addition, we'll also need to add some fill lights. So fill light, or an omnidirectional light, is literally just going to blast light in a 360-degree radius. So these lights are basically just fake pseudo lights. You're just adding more light to the scene so you get more kind of bounce light. Now, what's really important about these is they're a full attenuation. They're going as far as they can go. Again, they're relatively neutral in color, and I do not have shadows enabled on these. I actually don't want shadows on these because this is a fake sort of impossible light, and so we're just doing it to kind of add a bit more light into the room, but I don't want them like interacting with the objects. They're just a fake light. In addition, we've got lamp light, and this is going to be kind of important over here. Let me move myself out of the way here again. And you can see I have named these, and if I scroll on up here, we've got lamp bottom and lamp top. So normally I'll set up both of these as I go, and then just duplicate them to any other lamps that kind of like use the same parameters. So we've got a lamp light, and this is going to be IES number 27, and that's going to be this little guy right here. They do have shadows on. I'll show you why. You do actually want shadows here. Again, if the shadows are off here, it's going to look a little bit weird if this whole area is just lit up without any shadows, and you are going to get shadows under the lamps. They're at a very low intensity and a slightly more orange color. The attenuation is only 10 feet, but you could probably drop this a little bit more if you wanted to. Now, the one above this is literally going to be the same light. Well, it was originally the same light. I changed it to IES 17, which is a slightly different profile. It's a little bit stronger. I have this kind of maybe pointing upwards at the wall. So it's basically just flipped 180 degrees. And you can see it's going to cast a bit of light up here on the wall. Put those together and you get two pretty nice lights. There will be a couple of areas where you also need to add some supplementary lighting. So for example, for one of our shots back here, you can see this area is going to be kind of pretty dark. Now that is kind of accurate. Like you do get darker areas like the corners of rooms. And so I did add just kind of one light here just to add some visual interest. It'll help kind of draw the viewer's eye in. What this is basically just a lamp model from iMesh set to a little bit yellowy orange, and the intensity for the emissive material is set to about 25, and again, a little bit kind of orangey, kind of pink. And it's not going to light up this entire area, and that's not really its function. It really just kind of adds a bit of visual interest to what is kind of a darker part of the room. Now, you could also, depending on the lighting setup you're going for, you could add, for example, if you wanted to add some neon lights under cabinet style lighting, but I find that that can be just a bit really distracting, and I don't really love the end result, so I'll almost never use it unless I have no choice. Not a huge fan of that look. In addition, we have two more lights here placed sort of above the bed downwards. And you'll kind of notice like there's a lot of actual light sources in this room, which again, if you're, we kind of base this a little bit on a real world room. How many lights would you have? Well, more than you'd kind of think. And so that's what we've kind of modeled this on. Basically mimicking real light as much as possible. These I have renamed the wall lights. They're placed below and just a little bit down from the actual light source, what would be the lights built into the wall here. And you'll notice with these guys, very weak intensity, probably one of the warmer colors. It's a little bit, now I did have this over here initially and it was a bit too pink or red. So I kind of dial that, or orange and red. And so I kind of just bring that little fella back a bit. The cone angle, these are falling off pretty high. And the attenuation here is only 10 feet. I don't really want these like, they shouldn't be blasting light beyond that. And the intensity is very, very low. So put this all together, and you've got a pretty nice lighting setup for your actual shots. Without having set up my cameras, let's just take a quick look here. I'm going to turn the path tracer on. So with the path tracer on, set to about 150, so not quite the full high samples. You can see this is already starting to look really nice. You can see outside, that will probably be, we'll adjust the overall like local exposure, highlights, and shadow value, but I'm already just liking the look of this shot. Now the walls are probably a little bit too clean, and I probably need to add some sort of normal map or noise on there, but overall, this lighting setup will work really, really nicely. Okay, let's talk about the camera as well. So just while we talk about the camera, I've just turned Lumen on just so we can kind of work and kind of record at the same time here. So when it comes to setting up the cameras, I think one of the big issues that I tend to see is the sort of focal length. Like it almost always goes back to the focal length. If your shots are looking effectively flat, it's almost exclusively going to be a focal length issue. If you got your lighting set up and your environment set up and your materials are all nice and the renders are still just looking kind of meh, it is more or less going to be the camera. So let's take a look at this shot right here. I like this shot, image number 2, and I'm just going to leave auto exposure, and I've got Lumen just cranked up to full just to get a decent result. So let's look at our camera settings. And auto exposure, we're going to turn that off. You want to set that manually when the time comes to render, but we're going to do path tracer render, so I'll just leave it on for now. Almost all the time you can leave the white balance just as is. This is just going to basically be like how blue is the image or how kind of orange is it, so just leave that there. Local exposure, again, we'll tweak this just before we render, but let's just look at the camera here. So you can kind of see here with this 18mm camera, which will work fine for exterior shots, really like 15 to 25 will look good there. If you're not sure, just put your camera to 35mm. And once we do that, we can then just hit 1 or 2 on the keyboard, probably 2 would work fine here, and start repositioning our shot. So the 35mm camera is going to help bring you into the actual shot, and you can kind of just see here, even if we just toggle this, you can kind of see this is very stretched, and it kind of takes on a weird appearance. And 25 is good, but when in doubt, 30 to 35 is such a great starting point. For most of my shots, I'm going to do somewhere between like 35 all the way maybe up to 45. And that will get you pretty far. So whether you're looking out the window here, or, for example, if we want to maybe go to this like bed shot like this, you can already see 35 is going to just make this look better. Turn the path tracer back on, and you can kind of see this is just going to look a lot better. It's going to bring you into the room, and it feels like everything is just sort of balanced and sort of nicely organized. So 35mm camera, great way to go. In addition, if you've got an area that you particularly want to show off, there's nothing wrong with taking up that camera to 45mm or even going up to like 55 as well. Especially if you're going for very dramatic shots. Whether you're doing this with video, it might be a little bit different, but if you're doing video with Lumen, I would probably just recommend do it with D5. It's a bit better. For a shot like this, you know, you can do a 55mm shot that again is going to help just bring you into the scene. And you can see, again, if we put this back down, it's just seeing how much stretched, how distorted that shot is, and it doesn't feel like a real space. And I think a part of this just comes down to like looking at, you know, videos on YouTube about people who do sort of real estate photography or interior photography. And you'll notice then these higher focal lengths, and that will go a long way. Now, if you're going to do like, not quite a macro shot, but say you're like, okay, I really want to emphasize something like this really lovely sort of decorative element right here, this telescope, there's nothing wrong with taking that up even higher. Now, you could go to 85, for example, but, you know, you would kind of just be careful with these. There's a chance that it just gets a bit too zoomed in feeling, but you can definitely do like 85 for a single shot. It just really brings those objects sort of to life. You're still going to have to use composition overlays and frame your shot in a visually appealing manner, but there's like, you can absolutely do this for some really, really nice shots. And having a bundle of these sort of much more close-up shots interspersed with some of the sort of 35mm to 45mm shots will just really, really help kind of sell the environment. Now, there's a couple of other features I do want to mention. So I'm going to turn my path tracer back on here, and I'm going to look at the shot in particular. Vignetting. A couple of my students have been recently just finished up a project, an exterior project, and normally I would have said just put the vignetting at 40, it's fine. But you can get a really nice, some of my students actually cranked this quite highly, and I think it actually did look pretty good. This can also play nicely with the local exposure. So you can see here I have the ability to go in and adjust the brightest parts of the image and the darkest. And so you can get a really nice shot with sort of the viewer's eye going to the light areas, and then you're getting these really dramatic shadows over here. Now, sharpness, you will absolutely want to put sharpness on somewhere between 25 and 40. If you're not sure, I think 25 is a nice way to go. You're probably going to sharpen these in Photoshop or something similar anyway. You know, it takes away some of that very soft edges. And kind of that sort of softening effect you see in Twinmotion. And lastly, you always want to make sure parallelism is turned on. This will just straighten up your shot, and it just looks more visually appealing. If you're stuck for the composition, we can come down to the composition overlays and just turn on the grid. We want to make sure parallelism is on while we do this. And this rule of thirds, you can see we've got 3 here, 3 here. This is a nice way to set up visually appealing shots. Bloom and flares, I'm just not really a fan of these. They can get like, you know, you can kind of see, ooh, shiny. It's a little bit too much, maybe a little dash, but, you know, I'm not overly fond of this. Now, lastly, depth of field. I would strongly recommend, like, don't do this in Twinmotion for even path tracer renders. I'd rather, if it's just a still shot, I strongly recommend maybe just doing this in Photoshop. It's easier, the controls are better, and you have more control over sort of really, you know, kind of the level to which depth of field is applied. I don't love it. I find it kind of clunky, and I don't really have the level of control that I particularly want. A couple of other things I might want to mention here just before I wrap it up really quickly. If you're doing interiors, I don't necessarily recommend trying to get as much light from the outside in. Take a look at this image too here. I'm just going to go back to my camera, and we'll put this back down to, again, when in doubt, 35mm. And when it comes to like the environment outside, yeah, you can crank the environment, but honestly, I think you're better off just lighting it with the artificial lights. This just, I feel like just doesn't really work hugely well, and I'm happy to leave it at pretty much just 1. One other thing to keep in mind as well, you are going to get reflections of some of these emissive objects in the glass. That's totally fine, but you can also come in here for certain lights, like the area lights, you can adjust the reflection sort of level. And you can kind of just see here, I haven't noticed a tangible difference, but if I don't want it reflected in glass for maybe my spotlights, I'll just turn that off completely so it doesn't appear in reflections. All right, let's take a quick look at some of the finished renders. I'm going to go ahead and leave it there for today. Hopefully this helps you with just really quickly setting up lights in your interior shots, really just kind of setting up your camera a little bit. And hopefully if you're getting started in Twinmotion, this is pretty useful to you.